Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 132.
I'm Cam and this is Julie. Welcome back. Me. Yay, I'm back.
Yay! She's back!
So this week we are rolling on, and Julie did a fantastic job last week. I miss being here. But we're going to jump into Exodus 21 to 24, and this is after the 10 words have been spoken. I wanted to kind of go all the way back to to Genesis 3.
Oh.
And it really does tie in. You know, in Genesis 3, yes.
No, I was saying sure it does.
In Genesis 3, one of the things that Hasatan says to Eve is, you'll be like the gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the Lord does, and in the end that the Lord will do, is judge, right?
Yeah,
he is the judge.
Judges here.
He appoints judges, right? He is the judge. And so here we have man wanting to be the judge, wanting to be able to declare what's right and wrong. And then when we go to Exodus 14, no, it is 15. In Exodus 15, verse 26, it says, "And he said, if you diligently obey the voice of the Lord, your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, and shall listen to his commands, and shall guard all his laws, I will bring," and then it goes on. But the point is that this is teaching them you're going to be a judge.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to judge. You're going to do what's right in my eyes. And this is something that we see Israel all the way to today. This is a big deal for us. Are we able to judge according to what's right in his eyes, not what's right in our eyes?
That is the question of the year, century,
right,
millennia.
And after we go through the Torah, when we have them moving into the land, they did what was right in their own eyes. They did what was right in the Lord's eyes. They did what was right in their, that seems to be this struggle. And it goes all the way back to this first promise that he gives them when he brings them out of Egypt and says, look, do these things, do what's right. And then I'm gonna make you, I'm gonna equip you to do it. So we have Eve and Adam, okay, who basically they're now set in a position of being able to declare what's right and wrong. Mm-hmm. According to their definition.
Yeah.
Then we move up to now his nation, who's going to be his representative, his first son. He's got to know how to rightly rule.
Right.
We had Moses as that one, just like we have Yeshua, right? We have Moses as that one, going to judge. And last week we had Yethro going, dude, this is not going to work, right? Not going to work. So let's pick some others. Now they've got to hear. Then 19 and 20, basically they're being given these rules or this guideline, okay? Now, if you notice in 20, remember they're like, okay, wait. We heard, we believe, but we're going to die if he talks to us again. So I love this because what the Lord did was he gave them this outline. Now, Moshe is the one who draws, and this is where he gets this week's.
Right.
He gets all this information. This is what, had they not said, we can't hear, okay?
Right.
Then he would have just given it all to them.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, we can't hear. And Moses is like, that's fine. I'm going to get the specifics. But everyone had the general. Everyone had the outline.
The outline, yeah.
Which makes them all accountable. So when they hear the specifics that come, they have to be able to plug it in. They're all personally responsible for those generals that the specifics will fit in. Now let's go to Brit Hadashah. We're told to judge rightly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the general, and now we're going back and learning the specifics where to fit them in, just like Julie talked about last week. Yeah.
You know, I was going to say, last week's was really foreshadowing of what we see today. Mm-hmm. Because you have all the people, they get the 10.
Right.
They all know the 10. Well, in that, everybody knows the 10 Commandments, right? They all know
even
that.
Even if you kind of know
but
it, you're
the rest
at least
of
aware.
it, what do they say? We don't want to know. We don't want to know. Stop talking. They don't want to know.
Yeah.
So those who are really wanting to be like Moses and really wanting to press in and really follow in Yeshua's footsteps and be like him will press in to find out and hear the specifics.
Absolutely. I love it. Yep. You know, in John 10, I think it's 34. I'm going to turn there. I'm going to start in verse 34 of John 10. It says, "And Yeshua answered them, is it not written in your own Torah, I said, you are Elohims. If he called them Elohims, to whom the word of big Elohim came, and it is impossible for scripture to be broken, do you say to him whom the Father has set apart and sent into the world, you are blaspheming because I said, I am the son of Elohim. And then it goes on about believing me. So here's the thing. They're believing, they're right now at the, do we want to believe him or not? And he's like, look, if what I do lines up, then it's good.
You're the judge.
You're the judge.
Doesn't it say you're the judge?
You're the judge. So you're supposed to take what I do and line it up. And if it matches, then you believe me. Just like Moses was said to be believed. Remember, after they saw things and it lined up. Here, Moses is getting this information and the specifics, like we see this week. All of these specifics, again, like Julie talked about, we've got the 10, and then they line up underneath, all right? Now, I want to stay on the judge part real quick because, these days we say, oh, you don't judge anybody, okay? That's not particularly right. In Romans 2, if you look at Romans 1, we're going to go there real quick. Verse 32 says, though they knew the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practiced such deserve death. Now, it's listing a whole bunch of things. You can go read ahead of that. It says, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. Then when you go to 2:1 says, therefore, O man, you are without excuse. Everyone who judges, for in which you judge another, you condemn yourself, since you who judge practices the same wrongs. And you read the rest of 2. What this is really talking about is they're not judging like, oh gosh, look at them. That's not it. They're judging not what's right in the sight of the Lord. They're saying, you're doing those things. It's okay. I can't judge you. Go ahead. The second that they condone it by looking away or saying, well, that's your choice, they've condoned. Remember, these are people who are also believers. This isn't just, out in the world. Because we know 1 Corinthians 5 talks about, look, once you deal with your group, now go out in the world. You're supposed to mingle with them. So this is in no way saying you don't go out to the world and let your light shine. Yes.
This is the same idea that Yeshua, when he said, you'll judge them by their fruit.
Absolutely.
As Yeshua was saying in John, look, you're the judges. Line it up and see if it's correct. Anyone who claims to teach God's word, anyone should have the same mentality. It shouldn't be like, oh no, I'm anointed. You can't say anything against me. Right. We should be saying the same thing Yeshua said is, please make sure I'm lined up, because our ultimate goal should be to line up. But I'm sure there are times that we don't. And it would be great if someone could, in love, go, this doesn't line up. The word says this.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's how we're supposed to iron sharpen iron. Right? It's judging that fruit. The fruit is the mitzvahs, is it lining up with God's word?
Right. Is it according to his sight?
That's right.
Not ours.
Not ours.
So what we have, when we look at what I just read, he's saying, like you said, judge the fruit. But be careful that you don't just disregard. Because we know in Leviticus 20, I think it's 5 through 8 or 7, it's talking about basically, if you don't do what's right in my eyes and follow through on that judgment, then their sin comes back on you.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, it was out of love and mercy. Now, his kindness of when the Lord chooses to excuse, because a lot of times that the Lord's like, he's the one that's going to cut them off. He's the one that's going to bring the death. He can do whatever he wants to, show mercy to who he will and show mercy to who he won't, but out of love to draw them to repentance, not out of overlooking it so they can continue on in their sin. Okay, so while there's all these detailed mitzvahs, I thought I'd look at one that really made me go, and that was in 22, and it's talking about basically, if you find, it's 22, 1 through 4, so basically, if someone comes into your home and you kill them for burglary, it's a hard word,
right?
That's okay. But if you do it in the daylight,
it's not okay.
So it doesn't really mean that someone came into my house and they're going to kill me in the daylight. I can't kill you. That's really not what it means. In the daylight is more of a metaphor to mean when you can tell that there is no threat to your life.
Right.
So if they came in at night and you knew there was no threat, then you would still be wrong for killing them. If they came in the day and there was threat, well, you'd be dead. So poor decision to not defend yourself either. So
the Lord will take care of it.
That's right. So the whole point here is he's saying absolutely defend your life. Life is important, but things aren't. So if they're just coming to take your stuff and there's no defending of life needed, when the dude's running out with your favorite TV and he's got your back and you shoot, or his back's to you, you shoot. No, And in today's law here in America, that's not accepted either.
Right.
That's murder.
Right.
And you're being held for manslaughter. So I love how these laws we see in art, which again, people who want to go back and go, we have nothing to do with the Bible. Well, just look at our legal system, the way it was established.
Yeah. The laws are put in there so we can learn a little bit of an aspect of who God is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if we say, that's what really hit me this week, by saying, oh, that law is insignificant, then we're saying a part of God is insignificant.
Ooh, that's good.
And to say that it's null and void is to say that part of him is null and void, because and it kind of does away with the compassion aspect of the Lord in truth, I guess.
Right. And you just made me think of, in reality, that is what today's society does.
Yes.
We do say that the Old Testament, the harsh God, those laws are done away with. But not realizing that those very laws are what brings his compassion and shows it. So then let's go to the whole idea of, so it does talk about that this week, about keeping the ingathering. So that's Sukkot. The whole idea about Sukkot is for the nations.
Yeah.
Yet the very nations that Israel is standing
in the gap
for to provide, they're trying to kill.
Yeah.
So once they kill Israel, they have no one to stand between for them and the Lord.
Yeah.
So again, it's that same idea of thinking, oh, well, that's done away with. Not even understand. I mean, it is cutting off our nose to spite our face.
Yes.
Big time.
I would go even further than that and say that the church, by saying that the law is done away with, is trying to do away with Yeshua, who stands in the gap between us and the Father.
Absolutely. And not even aware that that's what they're doing.
He is the living word.
Right. And he is Israel. He is the firstborn. Mm-hmm. He is the mediator. He's all those things. But again, yeah, wow. And they don't see that a part of his mercy is the very laws that he is.
Right. And
I don't think that was proper English, but we get it.
I understood. Yeah. I'm sure
that's
did
what
too.
mattered.
Yeah. One of the things that really struck me was if your enemy's donkey is in the ditch. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this one over and over and over. But what really hit me was, oh my gosh, because of the compassion the Lord has for the animal. It shows he even has compassion for the animal. Go help the animal, and in the process, it'll be a testimony to your enemy.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you look at it from even the compassion, we've always focused on the enemy.
Yeah. How about the animal?
Isn't that what we always do?
Yeah.
Even in church, the enemy. So in that passage, always focusing on the enemy, but really it's about that animal. I just saw it different this year. It's like, oh, so he has so much compassion for that animal, that poor animal. These humans are fighting.
Take care of the animal.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. In that same part of 23, and I'll end on this, we see, don't do the false report. I mean, I see today, don't do the false report. I mean, listen to the news, or actually don't, but you get all the, gossip of who did what, and he did this, and he did this, and she said, he said. But only believe the woman because it's the woman, never the man. Well, right here, he's like, you don't just side with the poor just because they're poor. You don't just side with the woman just because it's a woman.
Right.
I mean, there's justice that, in the eyes of the Lord, what's right is justice. And now we have perverted justice. We have, what's that thing called? Social justice, which is not a biblical trait at all.
Right.
Even the mentality of if you have something, you better give it away. I mean, look, the Lord is talking here about things that are stolen, things that are even borrowed, how important it is in a relationship to properly provide.
Right. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, but like with the stealing, the way we do it is we just either find the person, throw them in jail, but that doesn't do anything for the person
who's been robbed. Right.
And it doesn't really do anything for the person who did the robbing, because I love how First Fruits of Zion says this. They say, when they go in incarceration, not incarnation, incarceration.
Jail.
I kept writing it wrong when I was writing it down. Incarceration. When they go to jail, they're only learning how to be even more evil.
Right, because that's all they're around.
You've got all the different aspects. Yeah,
right.
nobody's...
Now they're like, if I'd done it that way, maybe I wouldn't gotten caught.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this week is full of a lot of stuff. 24 is literally one of my favorite chapters, but we did discuss it in previous Doc Talks. So want to go tackle that, go listen to one of those. We would love for you guys to spend that time with us. If you've enjoyed Doc Talk and have friends that you think might, or family members, please do share. Our idea is just to get the word out there, and that people just start seeing the word as a whole, in totality, and not as just little pieces that just, promise of the day, what meets whatever they need.
And remember, we all have a piece of the puzzle. You have a piece of the puzzle. So your feedback to us would be greatly appreciated. Yeah. We have a little piece of the puzzle. So eventually it's all going to fit together, because in this Torah portion, he says, I think it's in this one, where he talks about, if you diligently do all of these things, then I will dwell among you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we want him to come back and dwell among us, that was one of my other big epiphanies, then we've got to start doing what's right in his eyes.
Right.
And once the fullness of the Gentiles, I believe that not only is that the fullness, like in totality of, us learning, but also the fullness of who is going to say yes.
Yeah, and the maturity.
Right. Yeah. I think it might go both ways.
I think so too.
Because we know that a lot of believers aren't going to choose that, but they're still believers and they're still there. Right. So I have so many thoughts about this week, but I'm going to save it for Friday night because I know we run out of time.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week with episode 133.
It's amazing.
You don't have a rhyme to go with it?
No. 133, believe me.
What? See, I knew she could do it. Wiki. All right. On that note, we hope you... And we will see you next week, and we hope your week is fantastic. Shalom!